Hi, and welcome to our webcast. Today we have Jay Steele and John Wright joining us. Our topic is how Bryant and Stratton College unified SMS communications. This webinar is 45 minutes. We have Q&A available if you'll use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask the questions. We'll make sure that we get them answered. Without further ado, let me introduce you to John Wright, CEO of TrueDialog, and Jay Steele, Unified Communications Admin. Gentlemen?
Thank you, Amanda. And Jay, just a quick thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule with a client, with a student base the size of yours and the number of people that you're administering unified communications over. We know you're a busy man, and we just appreciate you coming in to talk today. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate the opportunity to get the word out.
So I want to just kind of fill people in a little bit on Bryant Stratton first, which is first, we've been working with Bryant Stratton now for right at 7 years. The growth of Bryant Stratton over the last 20 years has been substantive. They originally started out as a bricks and mortar, right, Jay?
Yes.
And today, I think a lot of people would be surprised. I think you collectively across all of your different schools and online, the number is over 20,000 students.
Yep. We have, I think, 17 brick and mortar campuses, and then our online campus, which started in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2000.
It's unbelievable. And we've seen a lot of growth. I think even in the last year, you've had significant growth. Can you tell us kind of what the growth that you've seen in just in the last year?
Yeah. Actually, this last, we just got our new online student numbers, and we're up 18% enrollment for this coming semester. So things have been taking off. Like I said, our online campus has now surpassed our brick and mortar campuses in enrollment. It grows just year over year. I think when I started, we had about 300 users maybe. Now we're closer to like 1,000. So it's just been growing and growing nonstop.
Well, we've seen the growth here on our end as well with regards to the number of users. And I think a couple of things. First, you are the Unified Communications Administrator. Can you tell us a little about your role inside the university and all the things that you do, not just SMS?
Yeah. So Communications Administrator, basically my role is to oversee any of our communication platforms. So we're talking about voice and text, and it also includes stuff like Teams voice. I even do like our Sign Now stuff, which is e-signature. Pretty much anything. They're all, none of it's in-house stuff. It's basically vendor platforms. So anything like that is basically what I'm doing. And that includes user management, account management, creation and terminations. On the voice side, it's building IVRs, call routing. Pretty much any way that you want to communicate with the college, I'm somehow involved in.
Quite a job. And I think when we originally started working with Bryant Stratton, the gentleman who preceded you, or I think he's still there, who we worked with preceding you, we started out with around 120 users across the campus. And as you said, now that's 1,200 today. And I think one of the things that, in addition to the different use cases, the thing that I find really interesting, and the reason why we asked you to speak today, was how you've taken the user base that is using our UI, a user base that is using our Dynamics integration, and you as the administrator, how you've taken all of that and deployed our APIs. So you're using a bunch of different applications and our reporting tools, and how you've basically thought about things, and now how you're doing everything to mitigate the amount of onboarding, offboarding, all of that stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've taken that process, automated it through the use of APIs, account creation, and all of that?
Sure. So when I first started, I was doing everything via the UI, building accounts, terminating accounts, requesting long codes, moving accounts under different sub accounts. So building off of that, our IT department, we're big on automation. So we built some automation in there. So basically the way our system works is our HR software kicks out a CSV file every day for any new hires, any account terminations, any title changes, stuff like that. We have a script, basically, it's written in Python. Not that that matters, but it basically parses that file and determines the user's title and campus, and based off of that, it'll automatically, using the TrueDialog API, create an account or delete an account or request a long code. Anything that we would have done in the UI prior, we now do via the API. So it's kind of a hands-off approach. Basically, I just kind of spot check it every now and then. And like I said, it's pretty much automated going
I
forward.
think one of the things we found interesting in our discussions is that how you said managing it through the UI wasn't all that time consuming, but you've been able to now cut the amount of time doing administration to, I mean, it's a minuscule amount on your overall schedule per week.
Right. Basically, I don't spend a whole lot of time with the TrueDialog, other than if there's a ticket open, which, someone forgot their password, something like that. So I don't spend a whole lot of time as far as tasks like that anymore. Like I said, it's mostly automated. And like I said, the API, it's super simple to use, and I was the only one that developed it. It wasn't like a team of developers. It's not like I spent hours and hours and hours building it out. It's just kind of straightforward, does the job, and we're really happy with it.
One of the other things I thought that was really interesting is that in addition to kind of the onboarding piece of it, you still get involved with a lot of the data and reporting and the information coming out of. Can you talk a little bit about the data that you're taking out of the application and the different groups that you're sending it to and their use cases?
Yeah. Reporting is mostly, we have supervisors that'll have reporting roles, and they're gonna go in usually weekly and just look at the texts that are being sent. It's kind of a cute quality management angle that they're taking, just looking at it saying, okay, this is good language, there's nothing bad in here. The student experience was good. As far as data analytics, we have just implemented, we have a data analytics team now in our marketing department that is basically, we take all the messages every night, upload them to Azure, and then they're parsing out those text messages. We've just started it, so I don't have a whole lot of history to talk to you about that, but they're looking to improve our process. Our mission statement is all about the student experience from start to finish. So we want to make sure we're in contact with our students from the minute they put in an application till they graduate. So they're going to start taking a look at these messages and saying, okay, this response got this student this place, this one didn't really like the response as much, what can we do to change that? And we'll build off of that and try to improve. Our student retention has gone up year over year also.
Yeah.
But obviously we're always looking to improve that. So like I said, it's kind of a quality management thing where we're looking to say, we want to make the best student experience we can do. How do we do that? Let's look at the data and see what that tells us.
And just so we're clear, I think, the pulling of the message data, whether it's going to analytics, and the analytics is going through and figuring out how they can optimize and create a better user engagement or keep students retained inside of the university to complete their degrees, or whether just using it for training purposes and getting better behavior out of the individual reps. I think that's important to note, because I think a lot of times people forget that one of the neat things about TrueDialog is that you can pull all of the data or look at all the data inside of the UI, go through, understand on a rep by rep basis, whether it's admissions and enrollment, which I know that all of your campuses and online uses, as well as financial aid, et cetera, in making sure that the individual group leaders are reviewing those messaging streams and continuous improvement across how they treat and optimize the student experience.
Yeah, one of the real basic key metrics that I look at is opt-ins and opt-outs. I probably look at that maybe twice a week, and so far we've had really good success with very few opt-outs. And that kind of gives you a real quick overview, like, are people enjoying this or not? So that's from my side, like I said, that's the key metric that I'm looking at. Like I said, the supervisors, they're looking at a more detailed interaction by interaction look at the system. So,
and just since you're over both voice and text, I think, one of the other things that we found interesting in our discussions before we came on the webinar is that, the adaptation of text and the number of people who are using text. I got to imagine even in the last 3 years, it's been exponential.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that we attribute our, continued enrollment, meeting those goals and exceeding them, is implementing SMS. And, the reason why is that's what students want to use nowadays. They're not necessarily interested in taking phone calls or even emails at, certain times. They seem to respond better because they always have their phone on them. And, it's just easier and quicker to look at a text and reply to that rather than, try to call someone. Maybe they're not there, or they call you back. No phone tag, no voicemails, just quick and easy notifications. The students they do everything that way now. They upload their transcripts via text. They financial aid documents, anything and everything, pretty much. It really makes it simple.
And even when you're in a stabilized weather area like Bryant Stratton in North New York, you can send them an email saying classes are closed today and they're never going to see it. But if you send them a text, they're certainly going to see that pretty quickly as well. We know that with the instability and the weather conditions in and around your area, right?
Yeah. Well, we have campuses in New York, Ohio, and Wisconsin, so weather's always a concern for us. Like you said, sending out a mass text saying no classes today is certainly a lot easier than even trying to do like a notification by phone where you're dialing each number. And it just, like I said, it makes life easier in general. And I think the students really appreciate that.
One of the other things that I think you mentioned is that the productivity increases in moving student conversations from phone calls specifically to text, and that phone calls are kind of a one-to-one while your reps can manage multiple text conversations at one time. Is that something that you've seen productivity increases, which i.e. save cost across the campus as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We make or take about 16,000 calls a day, and that number's actually come down since I started. So we're doing a lot more via text. And like I said, there's a reason for it. Obviously, it's just you can reach more people more quickly. You're not tying up the resources. You're not, obviously, voice still has its role in what we do, but like I said, probably 70 to 75% of our interactions are going to be via text with our students.
It's interesting. We've certainly seen that although your texting minutes have gone down with regards to the number of, or the phone call volume has gone down, those 16,000 calls, we've certainly seen the number of text messages across your campus increase year over year exponentially. So we have a feeling we know where they're going.
Yeah.
And do you have a good feel for what the average enrollment and admissions person, how many conversations, they can only do one phone call at a time, but they could probably manage an order of 6, 7, 10 text conversations at any given time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. The admissions, it's our busiest group. We have a contact center where all our leads come in and then they are forwarded to the admissions. And there's no way the existing admissions people could handle all of it via phone. It's too much volume. There's just, if you're an admissions person and you want to send out something, the admissions is kind of, they use both one-to-one and mass text.
Yeah.
So they're dealing with one-to-one and they're dealing with bulk messaging. So they're getting a lot done in a small window of time. And not all our departments are built that way. Like our student services, they're all one-to-one. So they're dealing, one text message per person. Our financial aid's the same way, obviously. But admissions, they're gonna be the ones sending it out. Just a notice saying, hey, classes start tomorrow, any questions, let me know. They're sending that out to all their people. So there's no way they could make phone calls for each individual person trying to give them an update on what's going on.
Fair enough. And as another customer of ours said, using phone calls and email, they said it's a great way to talk to students' parents. It's a horrible way to talk to students because they just, they will refuse to answer a telephone. Just out of curiosity, have you found that doing things like notifying a student and saying, call me back at this number, we need to talk to you to confirm a couple of things, is that an effective communication that you guys are seeing, that you are able to increase connectivity of phone calls when you're using text as a preemptive measure?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said before, our mission statement is all about student experience, and we are proactive in the students' schedules and their so-called education experience. We're not the ones that are going to sit back and if you miss a class, say, oh, well, that's your problem, not ours. We proactively go out and we say, hey, noticed you haven't posted in your online class in 3 days. Is there anything I can help you with? Can we, get you in there and get you posting again? So it keeps the retention rate up, keeps students engaged, and I think it's a plus for us and the students.
Just a couple of questions I think would be interesting to use or interesting to understand. And we've had a couple of people that have popped in questions while we've been sitting here. I think specifically, they're asking, how do you handle training when you onboard new students or onboard new users inside the system? Is that something that you're managing the training process of TrueDialog, or do you work with the client services?
We have an onboarding process for all our new hires, and they do have a TrueDialog module. In addition, Dave Caraville always reaches out to me and says, hey, is there anything we can do? Do you guys need training? We can, if you have new hires, have them, reach out and we'll do a quick training class. And so we have, like I said, we do a quick module when they're first hired, and then if they need ongoing training, we'll do that also.
Fantastic. I think one of the other questions that's kind of popping in here is that, with regards to structuring of the system, you mentioned accounts and sub-accounts and all that stuff. How have you found administering that from kind of a control piece with regards to, how you can see it all put together and how do you manage it using, like you mentioned yesterday, the account tree functions?
Right. For starters, I am kind of a one-man show. So I'm pretty much the one doing all of that stuff. Just, with the volume of people that we have in there and stuff, it just kind of speaks to the ease with which you can do this with one person, myself doing this for our entire college, all campuses and the online campus. But the way we organize it is we have our campuses and our departments. So we have the master account, and then underneath that we have an account for student services, a sub account for financial aid, continuing education, faculty, so on and so on. And what's really nice about the account tree is you can go in there and see in a graphical form, the top accounts and all the sub accounts underneath them, and even the users within those accounts. So it's made life exponentially easier on my end.
Sure. And I think one of the other things I know this happened a little before you, but I'm assuming since it's, you know, when we originally started working with the administrators there and the head of the IT department, one of the other frustrations is that all of their texting was kind of spread out amongst multiple vendors. Having it all in one place, I'm assuming that that's provided some release of tension as well with regards to being able to have a unified view of all the communications regardless of department.
Yeah, definitely. And I think back then there wasn't a whole lot of time put into researching the platforms. They kind of just fell on one, didn't like what, ended up not liking it, so they tried another one, ended up, you know, just didn't meet the needs. So we finally, I'm not sure if it was by luck because I wasn't there when they picked TrueDialog, but we finally found, you know, the right platform that works for us and scales out the way we need it to.
Well, that's great to hear. Are there any other things that we've left off of today with that you feel are important to mention with regards to, you know, texting across your university or communications in general, challenges faced, compliance, 10 DLC, things like that?
Yeah, just to speak about compliance a little bit, I think one of the biggest things that we do here is we make sure we keep our TrueDialog platform focused on student outreach. We don't do any collections. We actually turn down requests for any accounts, like from the registrar saying, I want to reach out to this person, ask them if they can make a payment. We don't do that. It's strictly student outreach. So we're not trying to, we use keywords, or I should say we even avoid keywords like loan. We use aid to avoid any kind of potential spam risk. We have had a couple instances on our voice side where we've been marked as spam. And thankfully with TrueDialog, we haven't. We've been really upfront saying this is our policy, this is what we want to stick to. Let's make sure we keep this just as student outreach. That way we don't, you know, avoid any kind of issues with blocked messages or, and also say this, another shout out to Dave, as he does keep us up to date, make sure all our campaigns are registered, like new accounts are registered to the campaigns appropriately. So we haven't had any issues so far with blocked messages and stuff.
Well, none more than usual, right? The carriers kind of have a mind of their own at times, and you know, it's. I think one of the things that I know that the team there appreciates working with you, I hear consistently in feedback, is you've got a very good understanding of the telephony system, and you know, we do have clients at times that call and they say, your system's not delivering messages, and they don't. You seem to have a good grasp on that. We deliver the messages. It's oftentimes the carriers have pretty strict things and will block the messages.
Yeah,
based off of content.
We've had one incident with that, and the other carrier incidents were when they had an outage. So it's not even being marked as spam or anything. It's just their carrier's down, and you know, obviously they're not going to get messages when that happens.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time. Amanda, are you there? And can you see any of the other questions that have popped in that we should address? Or I think I can get in here and look.
Hi, I am here. I don't see them. Apologies.
No worries. I've got a question here, and maybe for you, or maybe for, you know, we need to go back and kind of check. One of the questions that came in is said that they have seen in their, they don't use TrueDialog, they use another provider, but they've seen that there are limits with regards to the number of messages that the carriers will accept in any given day with 10 DLC. They're curious, have you seen that issue from your perspective? And if so, how that's handled or how you get around it?
We've never had an issue with that whatsoever. We're sending probably close to 100,000 messages a month, maybe more. I haven't checked in recently, but we've never had any issue with our message volume.
Yeah, I am familiar with, 10 DLC, and under normal vetting, I know that Dave and his team have gone through and done additional vetting levels with you guys. And there is something called a trust score that's been introduced inside of 10 DLC as now. And as long as you guys, as you mentioned, Jay, you guys are extremely focused on content and making sure that your use cases are very specific, that they are follow in lines with the 10 DLC requirements and the submissions. And in doing that, keeping low complaints, low opt-outs, and high responses, which is engagement, that you build your brand score and your trust score. And through additional vetting requests, I know Dave and his team have worked hard to increase your daily sending limits as well, which, if you want to contact your TrueDialog representative, I know that we can help on that as well. But I think it's a good question, because I think a lot of people just think, oh, I registered for 10 DLC, I can start sending 1 million messages a day. And it's just not the case. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah. Also, I just want to mention, of course, TrueDialog has the capability for short codes, which we have one that we use quite often. That kind of, if there's an issue with, like, I don't know if I should send this through my 10-digit code, you can always send it for the short code, and that'll kind of not skirt the regulations, but it'll definitely help get those messages through.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that if you are sending large volumes and you're having deliverability throttle limits at a carrier level, as Jay mentioned, and I should mention this, is that, one of the things that you should consider is short codes, because there is no filtering or velocity limits on short codes. It does take a little longer to go through the approval process, make sure that everything's in line with the carriers. But the traditional sending velocity of a long code is around 20 messages per second, and they have limits, or if you've got a bunch, they have limits of around $2,500 messages per day per carrier. Each carrier has a little different limit. With short codes, you can send as many messages as you want. And I think that the one bind, and you can have up to 4, it's about 600 messages per second per bind. So in order to get things out really quickly, i.e., it's 7 o'clock on Monday morning, and you wake up, they're outside of Buffalo, and you got 15 inches of snow and the plows haven't run yet, and you say, we're going to delay classes for a few hours, it can get messages out to 22,000 students pretty darn quick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like I said, it's a game changer. We're not sending out phone blasts, dialing all these numbers, bothering people, waking them up possibly in the morning, who knows? It's just so much easier to send a text. And, I can't emphasize enough how much our younger generation, they love their phones. They love, responding by a text. It's just so much easier. And, it really, like I said, I think it helps our student retention rate. I think it makes the experience a lot better. And overall, we can do more with a lot less resources.
We got one more question in here. How do you deploy mass text for admissions, and how do you manage the responses? Do you happen to know that, or is that more of an admission specific question?
I can speak to it generally.
Okay.
So with admissions, we have, I think, maybe 5 accounts with basically a team leader in each one, and then their team. So that team will send out a mass text. We get the list, we build them, and just import them as a CSV file. We'll send them out, and then the responses, anyone from the team can manage the response. So they can respond to that response, or talk to someone else saying, hey, so-and-so responded back, wanted to, called you out personally, and then that person can respond.
I know one of the functions that's in our system that if the anonymous user who's asking the question, TrueDialog, being the CEO, I've been able to see kind of the development of this along the way. But one of the things that we've developed in the initial name of the company, TrueDialog, came from our ability to send out large volumes of text. And we have built a very simple queuing system as well that will allow you to control what accounts user accounts those messages can go to. We can either do those on an assigned basis. So like in the instance of Bryant Stratton, a lot of the admissions and enrollment reps are working with specific students, and we can push those responses to the specific owners of those accounts, or you can use a round robin and just continue to go around to make sure that if one admissions rep is not getting inundated with 50 while the other ones are getting 2 or 3, the responses to each of those. So that's actually our TrueDialog company was named after that particular product feature and functionality, and it's pretty unique to us. So we're pretty proud of that. But I know Bryant Stratton is a big user of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it works good also because, you know, if people are rotating out of that team, or if they're on vacation or whatever the case may be, and they're not going to be logged in for a while, you know, other people can see those texts and respond appropriately.
Fantastic. Well, Jay, I don't see any other questions here, and I appreciate you very much taking time today. We know you're busy. Hope you guys see. I was watching the weather last night, and it looks like you're getting ready for some big storms there. Buckle down and stay warm and stay dry and inside during all this crazy weather. But thank you so much again, and we really appreciate you as a client, and even more for taking time out of your day today. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, and if anybody would like a copy of this webinar at the end, please feel free to let us know if this has been recorded. Amanda, if there's any other follow-up notes that I need to mention, or
No, there are no further questions from the audience. Thank you all for joining. At this time, this concludes our webinar.
thank you again.